There's anything you can do, but if you can hear.
There's a moment in From Season 4, Episode 3 that doesn't hit you right away. But once it does, it completely changes how you see the entire episode, and honestly, the entire show. Knowledge has a cost. At first, it sounds like a warning, something mysterious, maybe even philosophical. The kind of line this show has used before to build tension without giving too much away. But Episode 3 does something different. It stops treating that idea like a warning and starts treating it like a rule. And once you understand that, everything that happens in this episode starts to feel less random and a lot more controlled. Because what Episode 3 quietly reveals is this. Every time someone in this town gets closer to the truth, something pushes back. Not eventually, not later, immediately. And that changes everything. Let's start with Julie, because her storyline in this episode is probably the clearest example of this rule in action. Up until now, Julie's ability has felt unpredictable, almost like the town was choosing when she could access it, when she could see things, when she could connect to whatever is underneath all of this. But in Episode 3, that changes. She's no longer waiting for it to happen. She's trying to control it. And that's a huge shift, because it means Julie is no longer just reacting to the mystery. She's actively chasing it. She goes back to the ruins. She pushes herself to understand what she's seeing. She starts treating her ability less like a curse and more like a tool. But here's the thing the episode doesn't say out loud. It shows it. The moment Julie starts trying to control her power, everything around her feels heavier. The atmosphere shifts. The experience becomes more intense. The boundaries between what's real and what isn't start to blur even more than before. It's subtle, but it's there. And that's the cost. Not pain, not injury. Not yet, at least. But pressure. Weight. A sense that she's stepping into something she doesn't fully understand and something that might not let her leave unchanged. Because Julie isn't just seeing more, she's understanding more. And in this place, that's dangerous. Now look at Tabitha. Her entire journey has been about searching for answers. She's been one of the few characters who refuses to just survive. She needs to understand what this place is, how it works, and how to break it. And Episode 3 continues that pattern. She makes another desperate move, another attempt to get closer to the truth. But here's what makes her situation different from someone like Julie. Tabitha doesn't just chase the truth. The truth follows her back. Every time she gets close to something real, something reacts. Her world doesn't expand, it tightens. And that's important because it tells us something about how this place works. Knowledge here isn't passive. It's not something you collect and keep. It's something that changes your position inside the system. The more you know, the more visible you become. And once you're visible, you're no longer just a survivor. You're a problem. And problems get corrected. Boyd's storyline in Episode 3 might not seem connected to this idea at first, but it absolutely is, just in a different way. Because Boyd's cost isn't external, it's internal. He's trying to hold everything together, trying to keep people safe, trying to make sense of a situation that clearly doesn't follow normal logic. But the more he understands, or even starts to understand, the more unstable he becomes. And that's what makes his arc so important here, because it shows that the cost of knowledge isn't always something you can see. Sometimes it's your confidence, sometimes it's your clarity, sometimes it's your ability to keep going. Boyd isn't being attacked the way others are. He's being worn down. And that might be even more dangerous because if the one person everyone relies on starts to break, the entire system collapses from the inside. Then there's Ethan. And honestly, Ethan might be the most important piece of this entire theme because Ethan doesn't learn the way the others do. He doesn't analyze. He doesn't question. He accepts. He listens to stories. He follows patterns. He treats everything he encounters like it means something, like it's part of a bigger narrative. And Episode 3 leans into that more than ever. Ethan isn't just a kid imagining things. He's interpreting the world in a way the others can't. And what's scary is, he might be right. The show is starting to suggest that the answers aren't hidden in logic or science or even survival tactics. They're hidden in stories, in symbols, in things that don't seem real until you realize they've been guiding everything from the beginning. And that creates a terrifying possibility, because if knowledge has a cost, and Ethan is absorbing that knowledge faster than anyone else, then what is it going to take from him? What Episode 3 does so well is that it never outright explains this rule. It doesn't need to. It shows it in the way characters react, in the way situations escalate, in the way every step forward feels like it triggers something in response. And by the time you reach the end of the episode, the pattern is impossible to ignore. This place doesn't just trap people physically, it traps them intellectually. It allows them to survive to a point. But the moment they start to understand too much, it pushes back. Harder, faster, more directly. And that's what makes Knowledge Has a Cost so much more than just a line. It's a mechanism, a rule built into whatever this place is. So what does that tell us about the town itself? It tells us that this isn't just a random nightmare. It's structured, controlled, designed, because random chaos doesn't respond to understanding. Random chaos doesn't escalate when people get closer to the truth. Only a system does that, only something with rules. And if there are rules, there's intent, which leads to the biggest theory episode 3 is pointing toward. What if the town isn't just trapping people to keep them inside, but to stop them from figuring something out? Think about that. What if survival isn't the goal? What if ignorance is? What if the system allows people to live as long as they don't understand what's really happening? And the moment they do, it intervenes, not always by killing them, but by destabilizing them, confusing them, breaking them in ways that make it impossible to continue, because a person who understands the system can break it. And whatever is controlling this place clearly doesn't want that. That's why episode 3 feels different, because it's not about what the characters are facing. It's about what they're learning, and more importantly, what it's costing them to learn it. Julie is stepping into something she might not be able to control. Tabitha is getting closer to answers that might not let her go. Boyd is carrying knowledge that's starting to crack him from the inside, and Ethan might already be too deep to turn back. So when you hear that line again, knowledge has a cost. Don't think of it as a warning the characters can choose to ignore. Think of it as a rule they're already breaking, because every single one of them is moving closer to the truth, whether they realize it or not. And the closer they get, the more the system is going to push back. And that leaves us with one final question. Not who survives, not who escapes, but who is willing to keep going, even when they realize what it's going to cost them. Because episode 3 makes one thing very clear. In this place, understanding isn't freedom, it's a risk. If you made it this far, you already know this episode wasn't just about what happened on screen, it was about what it means. And trust me, this theme is only getting bigger from here. Because if episode 3 is the point where the cost becomes clear, then the next episodes are where we find out who's actually willing to pay it.
Ethan and Julie.
Tabitha?